people for Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I'd only had shipboard duty up to that time, and I thought I need a break. So I put in for that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I got. Vietnam.
Okay. So, what are your first thoughts about when you, first of all, you hear that you're going over?
Well, I was very pleased that I got that, and I was told I was going to be an officer in charge of a new unit,
Mm-hmm.
and so that to me was really great.
Uh-huh. So when you get over to Vietnam, obviously you go over on a ship, or did you fly over?
Flew over.
Flew over. Okay. What are your first thoughts of Vietnam when you land?
Nice and warm. I love it.
No more cold. Do you remember where you landed?
Townsend in Saigon.
In Saigon. Okay. And where do you go from there?
Well, they sent me to the Annapolis, which was a cheesy barracks waiting to be put where they're going to send you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for maybe a week,
Okay.
crummy place. And then I got sent, I don't remember exactly where I was sent because I bounced around to 4 or 5 different places because my boats were not over yet. I got the first of the new Mark IIs,
Okay.
but they weren't ready in country yet.
Okay.
So I was bounced around. Primarily, I spent my time in Metah
Okay.
because I was assigned to the River Division officer, and he kind of took me under his wing and let me go out with some of the other units just to get a feel for what was going on.
Okay. So the Mark II, for those who may not be familiar with that, what is that?
That was a new Navy design boat.
Okay.
The first,
Small craft?
yeah, the first ones, Mark I's, was a uniflight boat made for fishing or sport.
Okay. So how big of a crew would be on a Mark II?
Well, at least 4, but it could be 5 or 6 even.
Okay. And your primary duties on that kind of a boat would have been what?
Well, being I was in charge of the squadron, I had plenty to do besides going out on patrol, but I always made sure that at least twice a week I would go out on patrol.
Okay.
And if I was out in patrol, I was the patrol officer.
Okay. And you're patrolling the inland areas, the inland rivers, and
Yes, yeah, and canals.
Mhm.
I had about a 22-mile segment on the Hamlong River.
Okay. And you're looking for enemy patrols, assisting U.S. troops that are either need to be evacuated or reinforced, I would say. Now, is it just basically patrol duties, or are you running supplies? Are you bringing stuff out?
Well,
also?
it's primarily patrol duties, but I was fortunate in that I really didn't have to answer to anybody. So occasionally I would get information about something that Saigon wanted done, or my river division wanted done, but me and my patrol, my XO, we could come up with ideas we wanted to do.
Okay.
So it was good in that regard.
Right. You.
I had no one looking over my shoulder.
Okay. And they actually valued, some input of what you thought
Yes.
it should go. And how long would a normal patrol be?
Could be
If
from
there
12 to 15 hours, depending where it was located from our unit.
Okay. So out and back to the same location?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you operate out of the same area for pretty much the whole time there, or did you move around?
Pretty much on the Hamlong.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many of those boats would have been in your group?
We had 10,
Okay.
but hardly ever did we keep 10 because there was always one that was shot up and getting repaired.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we only had 8 boats, sometimes a few times even 7.
Okay. At any given time. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you guys participate in any combat operations?
Oh yeah. But most of the combat was reenacting to the VC.
Okay.
We would be, they would lure us to some place and be ready to hit us.
Okay, so you weren't going out on offensive operations.
Oh yeah,
per
we
se.
did. We did that too.
You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we wouldn't do it with two boats. Usually, at least be four.
Okay, so you'd go almost in a convoy up
Yeah.
and down. Okay. So, about 5 guys on a boat, relatively. Each person, I guess, has a designated responsibility, or
Yes.
is it just, hey, jump wherever you needed?
Well, everybody was checked out in everybody's position on the boats,
Okay.
but there was someone responsible for each position.
Okay. So if the guy who's piloting the boat, something happens where he has to do something, somebody could jump into
Yes.
that role, and then somebody was on the
Yeah.
the gun, and
Yeah.
somebody. Okay.
We were all checked out in every job.
Did the Viacon, did they have boats coming up and down as well, or were they mostly?
Sampans.
Yeah. Okay. So disguised kind of to look like fishing boats. Were they overtly military, or?
Well, not really. We never ran into ones that they changed the configuration of. They were just, some were big sampans and some were very small.
Okay.
I mean, we had a curfew at night, at dusk to dawn, and any boat out there was fair game
Okay.
at night.
They were. If you were out after dark, it was basically inferred that they were the enemy and they were up
Yes.
to no good.
And during the day, we did a lot of checking papers of the boats, and
Okay.
and we'd send people over on the boat, go through the cargo, and
Okay. Make sure they weren't smuggling weapons
Yes.
and supplying.
yes.
I'm sure you found that quite often. So what would happen then if you found something that was smuggling something? Would they be
Well,
arrested? Or?
we would take the boat in tow, and plus the people, and take them up normally to a police station in Bentray, and then we didn't know what happened to them.
Didn't really care. either,
Didn't
did you?
care.
So how long were you over? How long?
A year.
One tour.
One tour.
One tour.
Yeah.
And on the boats the whole time.
I'm sorry.
On the boat, on the river boats the whole time.
Yes, but we operated from a YRBM, which was a large Navy ship
Okay.
that had berthing, messing, and maintenance for our boats.
Okay.
And the first one got sunk, or at least down to the water, to the deck. Second one they brought over, they moved it every day,
Okay.
and they had Mike boats out dropping grenades and all. So that's mostly where we operated from. When the first one got sunk, they sent us ashore in Metah, and we were there for maybe 3 months until they brought the second one over.
Okay. So when you say that was so you weren't going to a dock or a land base, you were going
No.
back to the ship.
Yes,
And just tying up to the ship.
tying up to the ship. Yes,
So that's where you would sleep. That's where you would.
yes.
Would be your,
It was pretty good living, actually. It was like being aboard any Navy ship.
Not having to dig a hole and sleep in it, which I'm sure was welcome, out of the elements. Were you able to have time to keep in touch with folks back home when you were over there?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Now being on a ship, I know normally during Vietnam they would have you'd have the telex and you'd have telephones. Was it the same kind of deal on the ship, or was it mostly letter writing?
Mostly letter writing.
Okay. Mail pretty frequently or pretty regularly, or?
Yeah, we had pretty regular mail.
So when you're not out patrolling on you're doing your 10, 12 hour patrol duty, how long would a rotation last?
Well, the patrol would go out for at least 12, but sometimes it could be longer because we were further away from the ship.
Right.
So that's how long it would last, 12 to 15 hours.
Did you have a set schedule, or was it just as needed? I need a boat.
No,
You guys
no, it was all set up.
all set up. Okay. So how many would you go out a certain number of days, then have a certain number of days as
Boats
downtime?
went out generally 5 days a week.
Okay. So you would go out 5 days and have 2 days downtime?
Yes.
Or, so I'm sure downtime isn't always really downtime. It's
Yeah,
working
it
maintenance.
depended because we might have something set up and we need a crew that's off, we'd take them.
Okay. So what did you, if you're not working and you're not on a patrol, is there a way for you guys to spend some leisure time?
Yes, on this YRBM, it had three other, we called them AMIs. They were barges attached to it.
Uh-huh.
One was for the maintenance crew, taking care of the boats.
Mm-hmm.
They could lift the boat on there and repair, change engines, or whatever had to be done. These guys were great.
Mm-hmm.
We had another AMI that had fresh water, made water from river water. And the third one was best of all, had a beer barge. And guys who were off duty, they could go to the beer barge. And I don't remember, either 10 or 15 cents. Drink a beer.
So that was the popular spot.
Now, of course, Navy ships could not have liquor or beer on, but this one could because it was a barge and
not a Navy ship.
and we weren't a commissioned ship.
It's funny how you work your way around those types of things when you need to, isn't it? You took part in the Tet offensive?
Yeah, we didn't realize it was a Tet offensive. We heard nothing about Tet other than there was a holiday coming up.
Okay.
And two of my boats were in that area. Actually, there were four. There were two in a further away area.
Mm-hmm.
But the two boats got called up. There was an Army MAC-V compound up there. And they were getting a lot of fire.
Okay.
And they called my patrol officer, who was out with two boats, and then the other patrol officer with two boats, who went up there. And they took a lot of fire, got a lot of people hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they called into the YRBM, which had a communications area on board, and they called me up from my room. I was asleep at the time, so I got two more boats, and we went up there, and that's when we found out what was going on.
Okay, but you didn't know it as we know it today, of it being the Tet offensive.
No, we knew it just they were having some good firefights.
Okay, so how long does that engagement last?
Well, this lasted for several days.
Okay.
And they brought in sea wolves, and they brought Army guys in, and Vietnamese in, South Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't secure until probably about 4 days later. The city of Ben Tre, which was the capital in Vinh Moi province.
Mm-hmm.
And we really shot that place up. We did a number on the city. And we got an Army commendation for saving the MAC-V compound. There was a bridge going over from the north side to the south side where their compound was, and they were coming over. We were shooting them off the bridge, and they gave us credit for saving their ass.
Nice.
But we got some lumps too.
I'm sure. Other than that incident, are there any other incidents that really stand out? Specifically, if you think back to that time,
Well,
you kind of go back to
none that serious. Where we had 6 of my own unit boats there, plus a couple boats from another section that was on the Harnett County in LST. And they were close enough to come up, but there was nothing like that. I mean, we had lots and lots of smaller combat situations, but nothing like that.
Mm-hmm. So you received a couple of commendations and citations while you were over there.
Yeah, one of them was for that period in Tet.
Mm-hmm. Silver Star.
Yeah.
You recall what was the Silver Star? Was that for that one?
That was for Tet.
Okay. 2 Bronze Stars.
One was just end of tour,
Okay.
a Bronze Star with V. And the I think the other Bronze Star was going in and taking down a Vietnamese a VC tax station, which we shot up, and I still got the flag from it.
Oh, you brought the flag back from it. Nice.
But the South Vietnamese were very happy about our doing that because every day they went out, they were being hit for tax.
Mm-hmm. You said it was a tax station?
Yeah.
What's a tax station?
They would set it was on the water, of course, and on a small canal they set up a station where all the South Vietnamese boats to go out to the river had to go by them. They'd stop them.
Okay. Take what they wanted, or do
Yeah.
it, yeah,
Yeah.
do whatever. You received 2 Purple Hearts. Do you recall?
One was for Tet,
Uh-huh.
and one was it was an operation that my XO and I decided we would do to show the flag, and it was running up a canal between the Ham Long and the Metar River,
Mhm.
which was strictly a VC area, and we took 4 boats up there, and we got hit pretty bad.
Uh-huh.
And we lost a boat there,
Okay.
and it was there that I got a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if a boat were to be damaged and sunk somehow, is it left as it lies, or do you do everything you can to get it back and so it doesn't fall over the other side?
We were able to get the weapons, the codes,
Mhm.
the manuals off that particular boat.
Okay.
We couldn't stop the boat from sinking, but we of course knew the area. We had the coordinates,
Mhm.
and we sent the Air Force in to bomb the.
Okay. So you destroyed it, so
Yes.
it was useless to anyone.
Yes.
Okay. But I mean, obviously, if at all possible, you would limp it back or tow it back if you
Yeah,
could.
oh, we had boats come back that were just being dragged back and stern down, but
Looking like
Yeah.
Swiss cheese.
yeah.
Mm. Alright. So, when your tour is up, how do you transition out of that and to coming back home?
Well, the officer in charge of all the CTF 116 units, we said 116, 117, I can't remember. But anyway, he thought I would be ideal for destroyer school. And so he set it up that when I left Vietnam, first of all, I spent some time in the hospital, but not a long time.
Mhm.
And then I went to Newport to go to destroyer school. And from there I went aboard a destroyer.
And do you communications there as
No,
well?
I was the operations officer, which communications came under, but a lot of things came under operations. That was a 3rd senior officer on the ship.
Okay. So you being commissioned, you had to commit a certain amount of time. So once your Vietnam time is up, your time in the military is not up.
No.
How much longer did you serve in the military?
Well,
And
between
Navy?
my enlisted time and my commission time, at that time, I probably had maybe 16 years or somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
So a destroyer gave me 2 more years.
Okay. 18.
Yeah.
Did you stay in Newport?
I was on a destroyer out of Newport. It was it was a ship, the Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., named after the brother killed in World War II.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was a showboat.
Okay.
And whenever anybody came to Newport that they wanted to show off a Navy destroyer, we were it.
The Kennedy boat. So you weren't the flagship, but you were the important ship, the pretty
Yes.
ship.
Yeah.
So you had to do a lot of entertaining, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Does that was that a good thing or a bad thing as far as you thought?
Well, it was both.
Okay.
It was both.
I'm sure it came with its share of perks.
But I mean, the poor enlisted guys, particularly the deck guys, I mean, they did a lot of polishing.
No, I'm sure, no doubt, yeah. So when you left Vietnam, it wasn't like other guys who left Vietnam. Their time with the guys who were drafted or whatever, they would come home and they were done. So your homecoming was not like a homecoming per se. It was more like, all right, this is just my next duty station.
Exactly. But a lot of the enlisted were what is the word for it? I can't think. But they were in for 20 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
They were the lifers or
Yes. Life is very good.
Okay. So when you left Vietnam, you came back by plane?
Came back by plane.
And where did you land?
Took off from Thompson, went to Hawaii, Wake Island, and then to California. What's that big base? Air Force Base? I can't think of it.
So, obviously, I mean, it's no secret that, you know, when guys were coming back, they didn't receive the warmest homecoming. Did you experience any of that?
No, I never saw any of that.
Okay.
I mean, I talked to people that did, but I never did.
Okay, that's good. So, you did how many? You did 2 years on the destroyer?
Yes.
2 years. Okay. And did you ever leave Newport and go out and any cruises on that?
Yeah, we went to the Med.
Okay, you did Med cruise.
When I get off it was still in the Med.
Okay. Did you do any of the crossing the equators or any of the?
I did, but not on the destroyer. We crossed the equator when I was enlisted, and also a Blue Nose when I was on the Little Rock.
Okay, so you did the whole ceremony and everything like that. Did you know it was coming, or was it
pretty much? Yeah.
Okay. I know we're not supposed to talk about the actual ceremony, but I'm sure it's one of those things where, you know, those are the things you remember. You know, the lighthearted moments.
They don't do it anymore like they used to.
I'm sure they don't. I'm sure they don't. So, given your choice, equator crossing or Blue Nose?
Equator.
All right. So after your time on the destroyer is up, is your Navy time up?
No, I had a couple more years, and I was in California at the time, and I had a choice of staying out in California or coming back east. And my wife had a sister who was dealing with lupus, and they lived in Virginia.
Okay.
So I decided to come back to Virginia, and they sent me to D.C. to Washington.
And in the Navy Yard up there, or?
No, on the actually it was the Navy Communications Station.
Okay.
In D.C.
And what was your duties up there?
I was operations officer for the unit.
Okay, and what rank would you have been at this time?
I was lieutenant commander.
Lieutenant commander. So that was strictly land-based duty at this point.
Yes.
Happy to be off the ships at this point, or did you like the ships?
In a way, I kind of missed it.
Yeah. You can't. Well, if you do it for so long, it gets into your blood, and you know it's kind of all you know. And you said 2 years there?
Yes.
Okay. Did that round out your career?
Yes.
So what's it like? I mean, you spend so much of your life in the military. What's it like when you say, all right, I'm done, and you don't put that uniform on anymore?
I had no problem.
No.
No, in fact, I never even took a job. I had a couple job offers in Washington, but I decided, well, I didn't want to. We bought a house in Chesapeake, and I didn't want to have to sell the house and go to D.C. again. And so I just worked for myself.
Okay. Doing what? What'd you do?
Well, I had a hobby from the time I was a teenager. And this is as a result of relatives being in World War II who brought back war souvenirs, gave them to me, and I thought, oh, these things are neat. So I started collecting them, and I developed a business buying and selling them.
Oh, okay. Military memorabilia and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, doing what you love, you never work a day in your life, right?
That's right.
So how has your wartime experience affected your life?
It never affected me negatively. I never had bad dreams or flashbacks. I was lucky in that regard. You know, I can't think of the author. I think he was a French author who began his book, Story It's a Classic. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And that's what Vietnam was.
Okay. Very good. So, obviously we're sitting down here talking, this is being video recorded. Say you're down the line, great 10 10th great-grandchild is watching this video many, many years into the future, what's one thing you would want them to know about your military service?
Well, it was something that not so much when I went in out of high school, but during Vietnam, when I put in to answer that message that I wanted to volunteer, I thought it was something that I should do.
Sense of duty.
Yeah.
What do you think about nowadays, how it is portrayed, as far as it doesn't seem as though that's emphasized enough anymore? Agree?
I really don't, unless someone asks me something about I don't bring it up, I don't talk about it. Mainly because of all the people that were lost to.
Right.
It was just a waste of time.
Are you glad you chose the Navy?
Yes. Yeah.
Was there any ever a time that there was any other branch that you were
Yes.
on?
My favorite uncle was a Marine in World War II
Okay.
at Guadalcanal, and I went down to join the Marines, and they weren't taking people right now. We're going to put you on hold, and we'll call you. And people had already given me a going away party and everything. I can't do this. I went down the hall and joined the Navy.
So I'm already gone. I got to go somewhere. All right. So are you the first in your family to be in the Navy? Or?
In World War I, we had my mother had a cousin, but everyone else in the World War II was Marines or Army.
Okay, so the Navy wasn't a legacy for you.
No.
But it was just something you were interested in.
No, and also I'd been in the reserve for almost a year, which I kind of enjoyed.
Any ROTC in high school for the Navy? No.
No.
Is there anything else you'd like to document about your wartime experience that we haven't talked about today? Any other stories? Any other?
No, unless there was a question you had.
Okay. All right. Well, on behalf of the Americans in Wartime Experience, I'd like to thank you for your service.
Well,
Welcome home.
Thank you.
And thank you for sitting down talking with us today.
My pleasure.